Ever find yourself wondering if your protein shake is secretly plotting world domination?
Or maybe if your pet's secret MRI diary would reveal they're judging your furniture choices.
Well, welcome everyone to the deep dive. We sift through the news noise to find what really matters.
And today was our really interesting stack of articles curated by consumers.app for April 20th, 2025. It's their Consumers 360 news commentary.
Yep, quite the mix. Our mission today to, extract the key insights, connect some maybe unexpected dots, and hopefully bring some clarity without making your head spin.
It's fascinating, actually, how these articles touch everything from our personal health to global finance and, well, even environmental policy. It really shows how linked everything is.
Totally. Okay, let's jump right in. First up, protein powder. We saw a piece asking that common question. Does drinking it actually make you gain weight?
Right. And we know there are different kinds: bars, shakes, powders, whey, plant-based.
Even meat sources, apparently.
Right.
And the powders themselves. You've got concentrate, isolate.
And hydrolysate. Concentrate has a bit more fat and carbs. Isolate is mostly protein. And hydrolysate is kind of pre-digested.
So the big takeaway seems to be it can make you gain weight, but it's not automatic.
Exactly. It boils down to overall calories. If you're taking in more calories from protein, carbs, or fat than you're burning, well, you're going to gain weight. Simple math, really.
It's about the whole picture, not just the protein supplement in isolation.
Precisely. And it was interesting how one source mentioned research on social insects, like ants or bees.
Oh, yeah. What about them?
Well, their protein-to-carb ratio in their diet dramatically affects how the colony functions. It sort of suggests this idea of balanced nutrition is pretty fundamental, biologically speaking.
So maybe we're not so different from ants in needing that balance.
In some ways, yeah. And speaking of understanding nutrition, technology is playing a role too. Machine learning can now predict food protein digestibility with like 90% accuracy.
Wow, 90%. That could be huge for personalized diets, right? Making informed choices for weight management or muscle gain.
Definitely. Knowing how your body actually uses the protein you eat.
Of course, there are potential benefits to protein supplements, muscle building, recovery, helping people gain muscle mass.
But also potential risks if you overdo it. Kidney strain from way too much protein, digestive problems, sometimes artificial additives.
So moderation and quality seem key.
And interestingly, some supplements now include probiotics. There was a study mentioned, albeit in fish.
Fish, okay.
Yeah, where whey protein helped protect good gut bacteria, like lactobacillus. So maybe an indirect benefit for gut health and nutrient absorption.
Which could then tie back into weight management, potentially.
It's all connected.
And get this, for tracking technology using deep neural networks to figure out nutritional content just from a picture of your food.
Seriously, snap a photo and know the protein.
That's the idea behind something called Nutrition vs. Direct. Wild, huh?
That really shows how tech is weaving into managing our health day to day.
Okay, let's switch gears. Our furry friends. Pet insurance and MRI scans. Does insurance cover them? It's a big question for pet owners.
Yeah, those vet bills can be staggering, especially for advanced diagnostics like an MRI.
So the general answer seems to be yes, most plans cover MRIs if they're medically necessary.
But the specifics vary wildly, provider to provider, policy to policy.
Totally. You've got to look at coverage limits, deductibles, copays, and crucially, those pre-existing condition clauses.
Some might cover the whole cost, others just a percentage. Reading the fine print is absolutely essential.
And without insurance, we're talking potentially thousands of dollars. That's a massive burden.
It can definitely influence treatment decisions, unfortunately.
It was mentioned that coverage differs internationally, too. The UK's pet plan, for instance, apparently has pretty extensive options.
And the good news is there's a trend towards more customizable plans. So you can sometimes specifically choose coverage for things like MRIs.
Which makes sense as veterinary medicine advances and these scans become more common.
Ultimately, insurance can provide peace of mind, letting owners focus on the best care, not just the cost.
But you really need to do your homework, understand the policy, and be aware of the regulatory standards, which also vary.
It's that theme again, being an informed consumer is crucial.
Okay, pivot to finance. Gold. Prices have been really high in 2025. Why?
Well, that seems like a perfect storm, really. Global inflation is a big one.
Driven by geopolitical tensions, those new U.S. tariffs, general economic uncertainty.
Exactly. And in times like these, gold is often seen as a safe haven, right? A hedge against inflation.
So if people are thinking of investing, what's the advice?
Diversification seems key. You could look at gold ETFs, mining stocks, physical gold, or even digital gold platforms. Those can be more accessible, lower costs sometimes.
But it's about balancing risk and making sure you can actually access your money if you need it, liquidity.
And here's an interesting link. Big data and sustainable investing, especially in developing nations.
How do they connect to gold?
Well, big data helps assess sustainability, but the very inflation pushing gold up can actually hurt ESG investments. It's complex.
So we need tech and financial reforms to navigate that.
Right. And speaking of tech, there's a warning about AI large language models, LLMs.
What's the issue?
They might have biases in their investment recommendations, potentially favoring certain stocks and inflating values. They're working on debiasing them.
So even AI isn't perfect, but can LLMs help with gold investing too?
Potentially, yes. With the right prompts and integrating news analysis, they might help overcome our own behavioral biases in investing.
The sources also mentioned the 2025 stock market crash triggered by those tariffs.
Yeah, that caused panic selling, messed with bond yields, and pushed people towards safe havens, like gold, reinforcing its role.
And China's shift to a high-tech economy, how does that affect gold?
It could cause fluctuations in global demand depending on their growth in consumer markets, plus ripple effects on supply chains and trade.
So high gold prices, it's a mix of inflation, geopolitics, tech influences, market events.
Wow. It really highlights how interconnected the global financial system is.
Okay, let's talk convenience. Getting prescriptions faster. Amazon, Walmart, they're speeding things up.
Yeah, expanding same-day delivery, getting meds to your door within hours sometimes. It's part of the competition in the online pharmacy space.
Big benefit for consumers, surely, especially people with mobility issues or in remote areas. Timely access is key.
Absolutely. And less need for trips to the pharmacy.
And technology is making this possible. Logistics software, maybe drones in the future, tracking systems.
Amazon's Prime network gives them a huge edge here, obviously.
But it's not easy for retailers, is it? Lots of challenges.
Definitely. Regulatory hurdles, maintaining the cold chain for temperature-sensitive drugs, data privacy, security.
And just managing the logistics, delivery times, coverage areas. It's complex.
Remember during the pandemic how drones were used for medical supply delivery in some remote places?
Oh, yeah. Transporting vaccines, meds, showed the potential.
And the rise of telehealth probably fuels this too. Virtual doctor visit, then quick home delivery of the prescription. Makes sense.
So faster, more convenient prescription delivery looks like a trend that's here to stay.
Reflects that broader integration of tech into healthcare for better access and efficiency.
All right, shifting to the auto industry. There's talk. A potential ban on carbon fiber in cars coming from the EU Parliament.
That's the report, yes. An amendment being considered aiming to reduce environmental impact and manage vehicle waste better.
But carbon fiber is super important, isn't it? That strength-to-weight ratio.
Crucial. It helps performance, fuel efficiency. So a ban could mean heavier cars.
Which might mean lower fuel economy, maybe more emissions. Seems counterintuitive.
Well, it depends how you look at it. There's research now using complex analyses, environmentally extended input-output, to assess the total footprint of materials like carbon fiber. Production, use, disposal, the whole life cycle.
Okay. So it's not just about the weight saving.
Exactly. And the industry is also looking at things like green coding, making the car's software more eco-friendly.
And exploring environmental liability insurance as an incentive to cut emissions.
If a ban happens, they'd look at alternatives. Aluminum, magnesium alloys, biocomposites, each with pros and cons.
But this potential move aligns with the EU's big sustainability goals, right? Circular economy, climate neutrality by 2050.
Yes, it's part of that larger push. Balancing innovation, economy, and environment is always tricky.
Speaking of big environmental goals, net zero. How serious are those global promises?
It's a critical question. Net zero means balancing emissions put out and emissions removed, with a huge focus on cutting CO2 drastically first.
Lots of countries have targets, 145, covering maybe 90% of global emissions, including the UK.
Right. It involves shifting to sustainable energy, carbon offsetting, aiming for that 1.5 degrees Celsius warming limit.
But are the targets credible? The reports suggest maybe not so much.
That's the concern. While many targets exist, only about 7% are seen as truly credible. Why? Lack of binding regulations, the sheer scale of innovation and investment needed.
It's easy to set a target, harder to actually hit it.
Precisely. The UK even created a specific department, DESNZ, for energy security and net zero. But enforcement and accountability are the real challenges.
Are there innovative approaches being tried?
Yes, things like integrating financial and environmental accounting, tracking biodiversity footprints, trying to put a financial value on sustainability.
And technology's role, AI, 6G networks.
They're expected to help reduce emissions as they develop, aiming for sustainable net zero systems for mobile services, for instance.
But laws forcing businesses to comply, those are still lacking in many places.
That seems to be the case. Some countries have laws, but enforcement is tough. Switzerland is apparently working on mandates, but it's not widespread. So the risk is that these targets become hollow promises, eroding public trust and delaying real action.
We need transparency and binding rules, basically.
Urgently. It's a huge gap between aspiration and reality right now.
Okay, brace yourselves for this next one. It's concerning. Microplastics, found in human ovaries, for the first time.
Yeah, that report was quite startling. It raises immediate questions about women's health, fertility.
How could they affect things?
Potential for oxidative stress, inflammation, immune issues, maybe reproductive toxicity. The study found quite a few particles in most samples.
And did they see any actual effects?
They found a correlation between microplastic concentration and levels of FSH, a key reproductive hormone. Suggests possible hormonal interference, but no direct link to fertilization outcomes was established in this study.
Still, just finding them there, how did they even detect them?
Sophisticated microscopy, SEM with EDX, they were tiny, average size around 4.5 micrometers. Shows how pervasive they are.
And this ties into endocrine disruptors, right? Chemicals that mess with hormones.
Exactly. Microplastics might carry these chemicals, delivering them right to sensitive tissues like the ovaries.
The broader implications are huge for the food chain, general health.
Absolutely. It really brings home the need to urgently reduce plastic pollution, not just for the planet, but for our own bodies.
And clearly, much more research is needed. Long-term effects, mechanisms, multi-generational impacts.
It's a very sobering discovery. The link between environmental pollution and our internal health is becoming undeniable.
Let's shift to something more positive. Organic farming. Apparently, it's becoming quite profitable in the Midwest.
Yes, that's encouraging news. Organic farming, as a quick reminder, uses natural inputs, compost, manure, and avoids synthetic pesticides, fertilizers, GMOs. Focuses on sustainability, soil health.
And it's working out financially for farmers there. Corn, soybeans.
Seems so. Growing consumer demand, potentially lower costs for some inputs since they aren't buying synthetics, leading to better profitability. It's finding its niche.
And technology is playing a part here, too.
Yeah, there was mention of a prototype robot using directed energy and deep learning for weed control, chemical-free weeding.
That could overcome a big challenge for organic. Plus, the potential health benefits, maybe more antioxidants, less pesticide residue.
And the environmental benefits are pretty clear. Better biodiversity, healthier soil, less pollution from runoff, potentially lower greenhouse gas emissions.
Are there downsides for farmers?
Oh, sure. Certification costs can be high, standards are strict, it can be more labor-intensive, requires different knowledge, but consumer demand and premium prices help offset that.
So consumer awareness about health and environment is really driving this?
It's a major factor, encouraging farmers to make the switch. Looks like organic could be a growing part of our food future.
It shows how consumer choice can genuinely shape agricultural practices.
Definitely a powerful force.
Okay, last topic. Fashion. And TikTok, surprisingly. Is it making supply chains more transparent?
It seems that way, according to one report. Chinese manufacturers are actually using TikTok to show their production processes, costs, labor details.
Wow. Pulling back the curtain.
Yeah. And it's shedding a light on practices, particularly in fast fashion, think Shein models, built on cheap labor, super efficient supply chains.
Raising ethical questions about labor, environment, highlighting the need for sustainability.
And AI is entering the picture here too, trying to help optimize supply chains for sustainability, reduce carbon footprints, meet regulations and consumer demands.
But there's also greenwashing, right? Brands pretending to be eco-friendly.
A big problem. It breeds skepticism. Consumers are getting wary. And the report also mentioned environmental risks from synthetic chemicals in cosmetics, harming aquatic life.
So what needs to happen for fashion to get more sustainable?
Well, we're using AI for optimization, moving away from fast fashion, definitely more transparency, adopting sustainable business models, stronger regulations.
And for us as shoppers, how do we tell the difference?
Research brands look for credible certifications, demand transparency about sourcing, labor, environmental impact. Be an informed consumer, essentially.
It's fascinating that a platform like TikTok is becoming this tool for accountability.
shows the power of social media to empower consumers and pressure industries.
Okay, let's try and wrap our heads around all that. We covered protein powder nuances, pet MRIs, and insurance, why gold is glittering, faster prescriptions.
The potential carbon fiber ban in cars, the credibility challenge of net zero goals, the shocking find of microplastics in ovaries.
The rise of profitable organic farming, TikTok revealing fashion secrets, and we almost forgot the last one, Harvard research on diets for longevity.
Ah, yes. Key finding there. Plant-rich diets, minimizing ultra-processed foods, strongly linked to healthy aging. Things like the AHEI and PHDI indices showed this.
Makes sense. Plants provide essential nutrients, antioxidants fighting stress and inflammation. Polyphenols were mentioned?
Right, those compounds linked to reduced age-related diseases found in Blue Zones diets.
Yeah.
This ties into the recognized human right to a healthy environment, clean air, water, food.
Regulatory guidelines generally push for fruits, veggies, whole grains, lean proteins, less processed stuff anyway. Plant-rich fits right in.
Plus, plant-rich diets have huge environmental benefits. Lower carbon footprint, less deforestation, less water use, more sustainable.
And tech helps here too. Health apps, wearables, AI chatbots, monitoring habits, giving advice, even detecting prediabetes risks.
So yeah, adding that to the mix. Longevity diets linking health, environment, and tech.
Okay, now summarizing. Protein, pets, gold, prescriptions, cars, climate goals, microplastics, organic food, fashion, longevity diets. Quite a sweep.
What really jumps out is, well, two things mainly. First, technology is everywhere, influencing our health choices, our finances, how industries operate, how we get goods. It's deeply woven in.
Yeah, inescapable. And the second?
Sustainability is not just a buzzword. It's driving policy, changing farming, pressuring fashion, impacting investment, and, as we saw with microplastics, directly affecting our physical health. There's a growing awareness.
Absolutely. So, to everyone listening, what stood out most to you from all this? When you think about, say, microplastics being found deep inside us, alongside this push for plant-rich, sustainable living, are we maybe on the verge of a major rethink about how we consume and interact with the world?
It definitely feels like we're at some kind of inflection point, considering the long-term impacts of our current ways.
Well, thank you for joining us on this exploration. We hope these insights give you something to chew on as you make your own decisions.
Indeed. Lots to consider about the future.
And that leaves us with one final thought. With all these pieces moving, the tight plastics, the global economic shifts, tech debt, what do you think the headline grabbing our attention on consumers that app will be a year from now?